All right, let's dive into some seriously fascinating stuff. We're talking marine and fungal toxins today. Really potent chemistry going on in nature. This one's a listener request, actually. They wanted to know about some of the deadliest toxins out there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great topic. It's amazing where biology and chemistry kind of come together, creating these compounds. It shows you how powerful nature can be and all the crazy ways organisms have evolved to protect themselves.
So imagine you're at a party. Someone's talking about their fear of poisonous mushrooms. This is where you come in. You're ready to steal the show.
Yeah.
So let's start with something everyone can relate to. You're at a seafood restaurant. You see this amazing red snapper on the menu. But have you ever thought about fish poisoning? I mean, beyond just like bad sushi.
You're probably thinking of ciguatoxin. It builds up in certain fish, like snapper, grouper, barracuda. And here's the thing. Cooking doesn't get rid of it.
Wait, really?
Oh.
So even if it's cooked perfectly, you could still get sick?
Exactly. Ciguatoxin poisoning can cause a lot of problems, like stomach issues, neurological stuff. One of the weirdest symptoms is temperature perception reversal. Hot things feel cold, and cold things feel hot.
Wow, that's wild. So how can you even tell if a fish has ciguatoxin?
It's tough. You can't really tell just by looking. Be careful where you get your seafood,
Okay.
and maybe avoid those big predatory reef fish.
Good advice. So we talked about toxins in the tropics. Now let's head to some colder waters. Shellfish. Delicious, but they can be risky too, right?
Oh, absolutely. One of the worst is saxitoxin. It comes from algae. During those harmful algal blooms, the red tides.
I've heard of those,
Yeah.
but I didn't know they were so dangerous. How does saxitoxin actually affect you?
So basically, it blocks sodium channels. These are like little gates in your nerve cells.
Right.
They control electrical signals, the signals that make your muscles move, your senses work.
So saxitoxin blocks those channels. What happens?
It shuts down nerve communication. You might feel tingling or numbness. In severe cases, it can lead to paralysis, even respiratory failure.
That's pretty scary. It makes you realize how fragile our bodies are.
And here's something interesting. Some animals were actually resistant to saxitoxin, like butter clams, for example. They can accumulate the toxin without any problems, which makes them dangerous for us to eat.
So it shows you how complex nature is. What's harmless to one creature can be deadly to another. Okay, ready to leave the ocean and head to the forest. Time to face a fear that haunts almost everyone: poisonous mushrooms. And what better example than the death cap mushroom? Talk to me about amatoxins.
Amatoxins are some of the deadliest toxins out there. They mainly attack the liver. And the scariest part, they don't cause symptoms right away. You could feel fine for hours after eating them.
That's terrifying. You might not even know you've been poisoned until it's too late.
Exactly. Once those toxins kick in, they mess up your organs, leading to liver and kidney failure. And unfortunately, there's no antidote.
So when it comes to mushrooms, be absolutely sure what you're eating.
You got it. Unless you're a mushroom expert, it's best to avoid wild mushrooms altogether.
Good advice. So let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about a toxin that's more of a slow burn. Aflatoxins. These are more of a long-term threat, right?
Right. Aflatoxins cause cancer. They're made by certain molds, mostly aspergillus fungi. You often find them in food that's been stored wrong. Grains and nuts especially.
So like moldy peanuts in the back of the pantry.
Pretty much, yeah. Aflatoxins don't make you sick right away. But if you're exposed for a long time, it can increase your risk of liver cancer.
Okay, now I'm thinking twice about those peanuts at the bar. So how can we avoid aflatoxin contamination?
The key is proper food storage. Keep your grains and nuts in airtight containers, in a cool, dry place, and watch out for any signs of mold.
Got it. We've covered toxins from the sea and the forest. Are you ready for something that sounds like it's straight out of a spy movie? Abrin. What's the deal with this one?
Abrin is super toxic. It comes from the seeds of the rosary pea plant. Even a tiny amount can be deadly. And there's no antidote.
Wow, that's intense. How does abrin actually work?
It's what we call a ribosome inactivating protein. Ribosomes are like little factories in your cells. They make proteins, which are essential for, well, everything. Abrin basically sabotages these factories, prevents your cells from making the proteins they need.
So it's like shutting down the power grid of a city. Everything just stops working. Is abrin actually used in espionage?
It's definitely dangerous enough. It's been looked at for biowarfare, but there's no proof that it's been used in real-life spying.
This is getting more and more unsettling, but also incredibly fascinating. Let's take a quick break here and come back to this in a minute.
Yeah, good idea. It's amazing how our bodies can handle so much. Like, our livers are incredible at getting rid of toxins, And our immune systems are always working to keep us safe.
That makes me feel a little better. So we're not totally helpless against these toxins.
Yeah.
But we still need to be careful, right?
Definitely. It's all about knowing the risks and taking precautions.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of scary stuff today. Let's talk about something a little more fun. Have you ever wondered how mood rings work? You know, the ones that change color, supposedly based on your mood.
Mood rings, they don't actually detect your emotions. It's all about temperature. They have these liquid crystals that react to heat. So as your skin temperature changes, the color of the ring changes.
So it's more about your body temperature than your actual mood.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. It's like a little science experiment you can wear on your finger.
Exactly.
Speaking of science, there's been a lot of talk lately about psychedelics. You know, their potential for treating mental health conditions. What's the science behind that?
So psychedelics like psilocybin, LSD, and DMT, they have a big impact on brain activity. One area of research is looking at how they affect neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity.
Yeah, the brain's ability to change and adapt.
Oh,
Some studies show that psychedelics can help grow new brain cells and connections. It's like they can kind of reset the brain, help people break free from negative thought patterns.
So that's how they could help with things like depression and anxiety.
That's the idea. The research is still early, but the results are looking pretty promising.
It's amazing how these substances that were once considered so taboo are now being seen as potential treatments.
It just shows you how much we still have to learn about the brain.
Have you ever noticed how some medications work better when you take them at certain times a day?
That's a great question. It all comes down to chronopharmacology.
Chronopharmacology.
It's basically the study of how the timing of when you take a drug affects how well it works.
So like our bodies have internal clocks.
Exactly. We have these things called circadian rhythms.
Yeah.
They control a lot of our bodily functions, including how we metabolize drugs.
So our bodies are like well-oiled machines running on a schedule.
You got it.
And this schedule affects how our bodies process medication.
Exactly.
That's why it's important to take some medications at specific times.
Right. For example, some cholesterol meds work best when taken at night, because that's when your body produces the most cholesterol.
Makes sense. So pay attention to when you take your meds can really make a difference.
It's all about understanding your body's natural rhythms.
This is fascinating stuff. We're really diving deep into the inner workings of our bodies today.
We are.
All right, ready to tackle a topic that's sure to spark some debate? Let's talk about GMOs.
Okay, so GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, these are organisms where we've tweaked their genes in ways that wouldn't happen naturally.
So we're kind of giving them a genetic upgrade.
You could say that. But GMOs are controversial. Some people worry about their impact on the environment and on human health.
Like what kind of concerns?
Well, some worry that GMOs could crossbreed with wild plants, creating superweeds that are really hard to kill. Others are worried about what eating GMO foods could do to us in the long run.
That's a tough one.
It's important to weigh the potential benefits and risks.
Okay, let's switch gears again. Let's talk about something a little more fun. Have you ever wondered how glow sticks work? They seem kind of magical.
Glow sticks are a great example of chemiluminescence.
Chemiluminescence?
It's basically when a chemical reaction creates light.
So it's not electricity or batteries that make them glow?
Nope. Pure chemistry.
How does it work?
So inside a glow stick, there are two separate solutions. One has a chemical called diphenyl oxalate and a fluorescent dye. The other has hydrogen peroxide.
And when you snap the stick?
You break a little glass vial inside. The solutions mix. Boom. Chemical reaction. Light.
That's so cool.
Different dyes create different colors.
It's amazing what you can do with chemistry. All right, let's wrap things up with one last topic. The science of cooking.
Cooking is basically chemistry in action. You're using heat to transform ingredients, chemical reactions, physical changes.
Well, it's more than just following recipes.
Oh, yeah. Understanding the science can make you a better cook. You can experiment with different temperatures, ingredients, techniques.
Like, what's the science behind that delicious browning when you sear a steak or toast bread?
That's the Maillard reaction. It's a reaction between amino acids and sugars at high heat.
So it's not just about applying heat.
It's about all these amazing chemical reactions happening at a molecular level.
Wow, cooking is way more scientific than I thought.
It really is.
Okay, my brain is officially full. I think we need to take a break and come back to this later.
Sounds good to me.
Wow, that was a lot to take in. I feel like I just got a crash course in everything from toxins to glow sticks. My brain's definitely feeling a little overloaded.
Well, that's what this deep dive is all about, right?
It is, but it's so cool to realize how much science is involved in our everyday lives. Things we don't even think about.
Exactly.
But before we go, I gotta ask, We talked about toxins from the sea, the forest, even plants. Are there any, surprising places we might encounter toxins, in our normal lives?
Oh, definitely. You might be surprised to learn that some common household items can be toxic. Things like cleaning products, they often have chemicals that are harmful if you swallow them or breathe them in.
That makes sense.
So it's always a good idea to read those labels carefully and keep cleaning supplies out of reach of kids. Another surprising source of toxins is mold.
Mold. Really? I mean, I know it's gross, but is it actually dangerous?
Well, some molds are harmless, but others can produce mycotoxins. These are toxic substances that can cause all sorts of health problems.
Wow, I had no idea.
So if you notice a musty smell in your basement or see any signs of mold, it's best to get it checked out.
Okay, good to know. Well, I think we've covered just about everything today.
We've definitely touched on a lot.
From deadly toxins to the science of cooking, it's been an amazing journey.
It has.
And a little bit terrifying at times.
Yeah, nature can be pretty intense.
But also incredibly fascinating. Before we go, any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
I would say stay curious, keep asking questions. The more you learn about the world around you, the better equipped you'll be to navigate it.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of marine and fungal toxins and everything in between.
My pleasure.
And for our listeners, even though we talked about some pretty scary stuff today, don't let it keep you up at night. Just remember to be aware, be informed, and most importantly, keep exploring. We'll be back soon with another episode of Cocktail Party Chemistry, where we'll uncover even more fascinating facts to make you the life of the party. Until then, stay curious.